Not having enough bad ideas could be what's holding your business back. I'm going to go into this with a story. So when I was fresh out of university, I'd finished my marketing master's degree. I'd joined a company as a marketing assistant, which was a very large event company inside the esports space. Within the first 2 weeks, I was in a lot of meetings and I joined at the start of the event cycle. So there was a lot of ideas, a lot of brainstorming. Within the first couple of weeks, I was pulled aside by the managing director and he basically asked me what was wrong. Why wasn't I really contributing in meetings? Was there a problem? I just leveled with him and said, I'm really nervous. I don't want people thinking I've got bad ideas, and I'm worried that if I give a bad idea, people are going to think I'm not good at my job. He basically took me aside for about half an hour, basically gave me some really crucial advice that really shaped my career to date. The managing director basically explained how a lot of businesses rely on rationalization, a process where ideas are judged based on the logic and practicality before they even fully explored. And it's basically said how this approach can lead to premature dismissal of ideas that could have potentially really powerful impacts. And rationalization is basically about playing it safe, focusing on what seems to work based on past experiences and established norms. It tends to favour a lot of incremental improvements over disruptive innovations. And then the director went off and introduced a new concept to me called post-rationalization, where the value of an idea is assessed after it had been tested or implemented. In this approach, it's given a lot more room to evolve. Instead of being judged and thrown aside prematurely, they are actually allowed to develop, and you can see where the value in these ideas are, which are often recognised in hindsight with a lot of things. It really encourages experimentation and the acknowledgement that innovation often comes from unexpected places. So this advice really helped me shift my perspective on bad ideas, from favouring the judgment to understanding that even bad ideas can be reframed into a very powerful tool. Bad ideas are often defined as those that don't conform to existing norms or are seen as too risky or impractical. They might be ideas that challenge the status quo, seem too complex or costly, or simply ahead of their time. In many corporate environments, there's a big tendency to favour ideas that are immediately understood and seem feasible, rationalised, leading to a bit of a bias against ideas that are harder to grasp by the main team or that require significant change in thinking and culture. The PC, or personal computer, is a really good example of this. In the early days of computing, computers were large, expensive machines used primarily in businesses and a lot of governments. The idea of having a computer in every home was seen as unnecessary and wasteful. So a lot of entrepreneurs believed in the PC when a majority of others did not. So there's Steve Jobs, who's a very big example of this. They envisioned a future where computers were accessible to everyone, and they saw them going smaller and more easy to use with a lot better user interface. So the development of the Apple I and the II really revolutionized computing by making it extremely accessible to the general public. Another really good example of this is Post-it notes. They were developed by a scientist named Spencer Silver in 1968. The adhesive was intended to be a super strong glue for aerospace applications. The goal was to create an adhesive that would hold materials together under extreme conditions, such as in space or high performance aircraft. The adhesive turned out to be too weak for its intended purpose. It didn't provide the permanent bond that was required for aerospace application. Initial reactions to the adhesive were very underwhelming, and it was pretty much flatly deemed a failure. Years later, another scientist called Art Fry realises that the weak adhesive could be used to create bookmarks that wouldn't damage paper at all. He applied it to a small piece of paper, creating what we know as Post-it notes. Fry's idea was initially met with skepticism, but through internal testing and promotion and a culture change, it gained a lot of traction. Post-it notes came one of 3M's most successful and recognisable products. What was considered a failure became a very indispensable product to the business. Coca-Cola is another perfect example and probably one of the most well known. It was originally created by Dr. John Stiff Pemberton in 1886, and it was a medicinal tonic that was actually really marketed for the remedy of headaches and morphine addiction. As a medicine, Coca-Cola didn't achieve the success Pemberton had hoped for. It was not initially seen as a breakthrough remedy at all. Over time, Coca-Cola transitioned from a medicinal product to a refreshing beverage, especially after the cocaine was removed from the formula. The drink gained a lot of popularity, and with a very effective branding and marketing, it shifted from being this medicinal product to probably the most popular soft drink in the world. WD-40 is another great example. It was created by the Rocket Chemical Company to prevent rust and corrosion on the Atlas missile's outer skin. The name WD-40 actually stands for Water Displacement 40th Formula. While it did succeed in its original purpose, it potentially was initially limited to industrial and military applications. There was no real immediate vision for it to be used beyond these specialised areas, and it was not considered a consumer product. Employees at the Rocket Chemical Company began to take the product home for personal use. They found it very effective in tasks like loosening rusty bolts and cleaning tools. The company recognised that WD-40 had this wider general public purpose as a lubricant and cleaner. WD-40 became probably one of the most valued household products around the world for its range of uses beyond its original industrial application, which is another example of reframing an idea. Why is it so important for a business to embrace these so-called bad ideas? The answer lies in innovation. Companies that focus on only safe, logical ideas often miss out on opportunities for true creativity and long-term growth. Innovation requires taking risks, embracing different ideas, and with risks, the possibility of failure. But it's about reframing failure to something different. Coming from a martial arts background, I don't believe in losses. I believe in wins and I believe in learns. I believe you've only lost or failed when you've actually failed to learn something from those two options. So if I've run a pay-per-click campaign in my work and it's not performed well, I could either use that £150 I've invested in that and just go, oh, it's a waste, or I go, right, what have I learned from this? I've learned that these audiences are bad, or I've learned that this set of marketing messages aren't good, or this creative doesn't work. So it's about reframing failure to something else. What's also really important is brainstorming sessions. And by brainstorming sessions, I don't mean everyone just blurting out good ideas and only good ideas. I mean throwing every single idea you get down on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard. Key thing is writing every single thing down. So I do this for subject lines. When I'm doing some email marketing, I'll write down at least 40 subject lines for that email. I'll then take a look at all of them, delete the ones which I think are absolutely terrible, and then look at the mid-range to the really good ones. Because you'll find that a lot of the time you can sort of merge them together. So there might be some good stuff from the really good ones, but it's missing a little bit of the catchy line. But then you might actually be able to pull a good catchy line from the medium ones, pull it into the good ones and making it an extremely powerful tool. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or a business leader, here's how you can foster an environment that embraces bad ideas. You need to create a safe to fail environment. You need to encourage your team to take calculated risks and make sure you're recording that data. Data is extremely important in this, especially for post-rationalization. Make it clear that failure is not something to be feared, but rather a stepping stone to success. Really copy SpaceX here. Elon Musk is very vocal about their failures and very vocal about what they've learned from their failures, which is something I think we can all learn. Now, another key thing is to encourage rapid prototyping. So this might not be relevant to everyone, but tell your employees or yourself to not overthink. Stop overthinking that idea. Don't wait till you got the perfect plan. Just start running with it. This way you can learn and adapt early in the process rather than realising you've planned for nothing. Train yourself and your team into post-rationalization. You need to see the potential ideas after they've been tested. Often the true value of an idea only becomes apparent after it's been put into actual practical use. And celebrate your failures. Make it a point to recognise and share stories of failures that lead to valuable insights or strategic pivots. This not only normalises failure, but also highlights its importance in the innovation process. The best sales manager I've ever come across used to do a weekly meeting. They either played or discussed calls that didn't go well. And they'll discuss why they didn't go well. And they'll post-rationalise these calls and understand, I shouldn't have said this. This objection was too hard and I came back with the wrong response. I need to focus more on the building rapport. It's a very good, strong way of teaching an entire team from one person's failure. And it really creates that failure into a business investment. Because you may have lost a customer that could be worth £1,000, but you know that you've paid £1,000 to teach the team how to not lose that £1,000 ever again. If you can take away one thing from this video, it should be that the line between a bad idea and a revolutionary one is very thin. What really matters is Not whether the idea looks good at first glance, but whether you're willing to explore, iterate, and learn from it. Remember, today's bad idea could very well be tomorrow's breakthrough. So next time you have an idea that seems a little out there, don't dismiss it. Embrace it, really consider it, and see where it takes you. A bad idea could lead you down a solution focus, which really takes you to somewhere completely different, but could revolutionize your industry. Now, I want to hear from you. What bad ideas are you holding on to? Share them in the comments below, and let's start a conversation about the power of thinking differently. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you got any feedback on my videos, on my failures, please let me know below.